Today is the first part of a 3-part series going over all the TTKs and damage values for all the characters inside Rivals. This one we're starting off with the Vanguard characters, and we want to figure out which characters do the most amount of damage. Now how we actually tested this, I'll show this on screen just now, is that we actually went in private match. Me and my partner, we did some damage testing. Now what you do is you use the move that you want to test the damage on, and then you see how much damage is dealt to the opponent. Now obviously my partner would see exactly the amount of damage number value would be on his screen, so obviously we got the exact values that way. And then after that, obviously we ran through all the different characters, tested different moves, and obviously figured out the damage values that way. We also calculated rate of fires as well, but we'll get into all the numbers in just a moment. Getting into the actual numbers now, I want to explain a lot of these things before we get into all the kind of TTK numbers. So first of all, primary damage is the main source of damage that you usually do. So that's the R2 trigger or the RT trigger on Xbox, and then I think it's the right mouse click. I'm not 100% sure what it is on keyboard and mouse, but the main way of doing damage with these characters. So for example, with the Hulk is going to be punching, because that is exactly what he does. And then the secondary damage is going to be the kind of next move in line after that, which I will go on to explain with each character because it's quite different. Melee damage we also tested with characters that do have long range attacks, because there actually are different values for melee damage. And then the rate of fire here would technically be the rate of attack for certain characters. So if it's Captain America, you can only punch, for example, so it's not necessarily a rate of fire, it's more of a rate of attack. So that, keep that all in mind. I know there's a lot of information here, but we will get through it. Now if you want to just look at who's got the highest amount of damage in the game, then Venom has got the highest amount of damage in the game when it comes to Vanguard characters alone. And then after that is Doctor Strange, after that is Magneto, after that is Groot, and then the rest are obviously a lot lower in general. So now I'm going to quickly explain what I actually tested here, just so you can understand what we've done with each character. So when it comes to the Hulk, I never tested Bruce Banner, by the way. I only tested the regular Hulk. So this is the normal Hulk that we get to start off with within the game. And what is actually doing 40 damage is this single punch. So that is what is dealing 40 damage with the Hulk. Now what is dealing the 70 damage is the R1 clap. So that is where you're getting the 70 damage from. And then obviously the rate of attack is obviously how fast he can strike in the game. Now moving on into Doctor Strange now, we'll show you exactly what we tested. So his primary damage, which is the only source of damage he kind of has, is these kind of fire attacks. I'm not really too sure exactly what they are. And that is what's dealing the 90 damage here. So just keep that in mind. And then obviously we tested the melee attack, which is obviously the standard melee here, which is doing the 30 damage. Now with Captain America, it's slightly different here, which is pretty strange. And the reason why the TTKs will not be accurate with Captain America is because when you hit with your melee attack to begin with, you get 40 damage. And then after that, you gain shields. So if you actually see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you're gaining shields that you can throw like frisbees, right? So you're gaining that. So for example, if I do a couple of melee attacks and then I go long range, I can actually start throwing these shields as well. And these deal 45 damage. So whilst you have those shields throwing, you're actually dealing a little bit more damage. So your TTK numbers will be slightly better than what I'm going to show you in just a moment. And then what is dealing the 70 damage is when you press the L1 attack, that is dealing 70 damage right there when he throws the shield. What we tested with Groot then was his standard attack, which deals 70 damage, which is this regular attack that he does. And then we also tested the melee as well, which does 30 damage. So melee does 30 damage with Groot. And then the Spore Bombs, which is his other attack, which is the L2, is what deals 65 damage if you land it straight at the feet of the enemy opponent. Now what we tested with Venom was his regular attack, and this deals 100 damage, which is absolutely insane, by the way. So we did test that with Venom, and then we also tested the regular melee as well, which does 30 damage. What we tested with Magneto was his regular attack, which deals 75 damage, and then we tested the L1 attack, which does 90 damage, and it also pushes the enemy as well here. And then we also tested the melee, which he brings out a sword for, and he actually does 40 damage with the melee, which is slightly more than some of the other characters in the game. What we tested with Thor was his melee strike, and that does 45 damage. So that's just a standard melee strike here, as you can see. Then we tested the charge up boost into them, and that does 60 damage. So that does a bit more damage than the standard melee strike. And then we also tested throwing the hammer as well, which actually does 70 damage. So they increasingly do better damage as you go on. We didn't test the final ability because it's a bit more difficult to test, to be honest. But as you can see, Thor's doing a pretty decent amount of damage there. The last character tested was Penny Parker, and for one single bullet, you do 30 damage. Actually quite a lot, to be honest, considering the fire rate is pretty quick. Then we also tested the kind of grenade that she has, and that deals 100 damage, which is actually quite a lot, especially for the kind of lower health characters. And then we also tested the melee strike, which is 30 damage. So those are all the characters and everything we tested. So we're going to round this video off now, and we're going to get into the TTK numbers. So that's the time to kill for each of these kind of characters. And we've got 800 HP, 600 HP, 400 HP, and 200 HP. There is characters that lie in between these values, by the way. So there's characters at 650 HP. There's characters at 850 HP. So Groot's at 850. I think Magneto's 650. I think Wolverine sits at 450, if I'm being perfectly honest. And then we've got like Spider-Man and things who have 250 HP. But we're not going to go over every single TTK value because the video is going to be insanely long. But what we do want to do is focus on the main ones here, and obviously you get an idea of who has the best time to kills. Now, when we're organising this right here for the fastest TTK, Venom comes out on top, and that is why everyone loves Venom, because he just feels so good and he kills so quick, especially those low health opponents. As you can see here, you're killing them within 1 second, 2 seconds, so it's absolutely insane the kind of time to kill values you're getting with Venom. When it comes to Vanguard players anyway, Venom does feel great. Now, obviously his abilities are not the best in my personal opinion, but just the sheer damage he does is just insane. Then Doctor Strange is next. Obviously does have ranged attacks, so it is going to be kind of useful as well. I just think his abilities are not the best. Groot comes next, and I do think Groot's abilities are pretty solid, so Groot is a solid choice as well. And Magneto's abilities are absolutely insane, and I think he's a really, really solid choice just across the board if you want to use a well-rounded character that can kill quick and also has good protection abilities for his team. The only outlier here, by the way, is Captain America, because you do get that 45 damage buff, so it goes from 40 to 45 when you start throwing the shields, and it will bring the TTK numbers down just a little as well. Now, it's not going to bring it significantly past Magneto or Groot, so it's not really worth even using Captain America in my opinion. His movement is better, but other than that, you're not going to be killing really, really quick with Captain America. So my 4 top choices is obviously the ones that are up here. So Venom, Doctor Strange, Groot, and Magneto. So there we have it. Those are the fastest killing and high damage Vanguards in the game. We'll next be going on into the Duelists, which have a ton more players, and we'll need to do a lot more testing. So that will be either tomorrow's video or the day after. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.